Okay, college algebra, this is problem number 18 on the practice final. And you should recognize this is that that very thing we worked on for several days not long before the break, where we were multiplying out binomials where, one of the binomials contained some complex number in the form of 1 plus or minus some square root of something, or maybe it was a complex number, like 3 plus or minus 2i. In this case, you're given a polynomial. This is really kind of another polynomial zero problem, where you're given the degree and you're given 2 of the zeros, and you have to figure out what the third one is. Once you do that, then what it's asking you to do is to essentially multiply those things out to get a polynomial, okay, because it asks for a polynomial. It doesn't ask for a factored polynomial, or it doesn't ask for the factors. So here we go. Let's just go ahead and break this thing down. We've got a degree of 3, and that tells us right there that we're going to have 3 factors that go with 3 zeros, and we're given degree of 3 and has -2 and 1 plus the square root of 2. This is just one number, whatever it is. Those are 2 of the 3 zeros. Now, one of the things it's testing here, straight up, is the knowledge that you should have squirreled in the back of your head that if I have one irrational zero, 1 plus the square root of 2, that I should already know what the other one is, because it's going to be the conjugate of this. So the other zero, that third zero, is 1 minus the square root of 2. So now I have all the zeros. How do I construct the factors? And then once I construct the factors, all I got to do is multiply those factors together to get the answer. And keep in mind, this is another one of those multi-step problems where, if you're doing the steps and having some success here and there, then you're going to get some of these points even if you don't get all of them. Okay, try for all, but show me all your work so that you can at least get some. Okay, so let's work with this. This is a factor would be x minus -2. We'll just call it x plus 2. Okay? A lot of you think, well, it's always just the opposite sign. You can think of it that way. But x plus 2 is the factor that goes with the 0 of -2. Likewise, x minus 1 plus the square root of 2. This is the factor that goes with 1 plus the square root of 2. Okay? There's obviously 1 plus the square root of 2 minus 1 plus the square root of 2 is 0. Okay, and then likewise we'll have one here. X minus 1 minus the square root of 2. Okay, and don't get mixed up and make one of these plus and one of these minus. It's always minus. This is where your plus and minus change. Right there. That is a wild looking 2. Let's fix that. Make him worse. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to take and multiply this times this, get a result, multiply it times this, and we'll have our final polynomial. I probably will not do them in that order. It makes a lot more sense to me if I multiply this times this and get that taken care of. Okay? And then when I'm done, I can come back and multiply that times the x plus 2, which will be a whole lot easier. So let's get started. This is probably going to take more paper than I've got here. We'll see. It might work out. So if I'm going to multiply, and I'm just going to do this part first, then I'm going to have to take the x times the x. I'm also going to take the x times this. I'm going to take this, which is a negative, times this. And then finally, I'm going to take a negative 1 plus the square root of 2 times a negative 1 minus the square root of 2. And I have to figure out what that's going to be. Okay, so let's just take each one. Here we go. X times x, that's the fun one. That's just x squared. X times negative 1 minus the square root of 2 is going to be a minus x times 1 minus the square root of 2. Okay. Now we're going to have this times this, which is going to be minus x times 1 plus the square root of 2. Okay, work all that out. Finally, we're going to have this. This negative times a negative is going to be a positive, right? So my negative in front of this and my negative in front of this, that's going to become a positive. So really what I'm going to have is plus the product of these two things. 1 plus the square root of 2, let's put a 1 in there, times 1 minus the square root of 2. Okay? Okay. Yeah. If I had better handwriting, this would look like a lot easier problem. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this part here, 1 plus the square root of 2, 1 minus the square root of 2. We're just going to come up here and we're going to kind of take a scenic route on that. We'll put the answer that we get down here, and then we'll resolve this stuff here. And this really isn't so bad. So 1 plus the square root of 2 times 1 minus the square root of 2. Again, this times this, this times this, this times this, this times this. Okay? Let's scoot this over just a little. Okay. So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times the negative square root of 2 is minus the square root of 2. Square root of 2 times 1 is plus the square root of 2. And I have a positive times a negative, so my answer is going to be negative. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. These two cancel out. I'm left with 1 minus 2, or negative 1. So I'm just going to change this to minus 1. Okay? Simple enough. Here we go. Let's. These are just a matter of distributing. So let's go ahead. We got x squared minus x, that's the minus x times 1, plus x times the square root of 2, minus x times 1, which is x, minus x, and then finally minus x the square root of 2, and then this is our minus 1 that was a result of doing this. Okay, lucky us. We got a positive x squared root of 2 and a negative x squared root of 2. Those are going to cancel out. We can get rid of those. Minus x is minus 2x. I got x squared minus 2x minus 1. And that's it. We've just worked it all out. We've worked out the answer to what is the polynomial that has... Oh no, we're not done yet. We got to do one more multiplication. We got to multiply this, times x plus 2. Ooh, almost forgot. I would have had most of the points, but just not all of them. Okay, so to do this final bit of multiplication, I'm going to scoot this a little bit. I just have to take every term here times every term here. Then I'm going to do this one. Then I'm going to do this one, okay? So I should end up with 6 terms, and then I can combine the like terms. So x squared times x cubed. X squared times 2. Now I'm going to go to the next one. Negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared. Negative 2x times 2 is negative 4x. And finally, negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Okay. Plus 2x squared minus 2x squared. Those are going to cancel out. Minus 4x minus x. This becomes a minus 5x. And minus 2 doesn't combine, so we have x cubed minus 5x minus 2. That is what we'll call the actual answer. Okay? So don't forget you got that term up here that we got to multiply by in the end. And that's all there is to it. That's problem number 18.